At movie night with friends, my fiancé whispered, "Don't tell him I'm texting my ex. He gets so sensitive." I reached over and said, "Let me see." What I read, and what I did next, turned the whole room silent. Movie nights with this group were usually the easiest part of my week. I knew the drill. Someone picked a random old film, someone else overcooked the popcorn, and everyone lounged around the living room like we were back in college. I came after finishing a double shift, so I expected nothing more than a quiet evening. I arrived at Rowan's apartment a little after 7, still in my hoodie, still carrying the slight smell of coffee from work. They were all scattered around the living room. Rowan on the floor, Silas on the armchair, Chloe spread across the couch like a cat. My fiancée, Rhea, sat near the corner of the couch, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone. Everything looked normal enough, but I recognized the stiffness in her posture the moment I walked in. Rhea always tried to hide tension by acting overly casual. She gave me a soft wave and tucked her phone under her thigh with that quick motion someone uses when they don't want others to see the screen. I didn't comment, but I noticed. Everyone greeted me, and the room settled. The lights dimmed, and the opening credits rolled. For the first 20 minutes, nothing stood out except for the small things. Rhea checking her phone every few minutes, her knee bouncing faster than the rhythm of the soundtrack, her breathing shifting whenever her phone vibrated. She tilted her body away from me like she wanted me to miss what she was doing. I kept watching the screen, pretending not to see anything, but the awareness gnawed at me. Then it happened. I heard her whisper to Chloe. Not loud, not reckless, but careful, like she thought I was too absorbed in the movie to catch it. "Don't tell him I'm texting my ex," she breathed. "He gets so sensitive." Whatever fatigue I had evaporated instantly. My chest tightened. I didn't move at first because my mind needed a few seconds to process what she actually said. Not someone. Not a coworker. Her ex. The same ex she swore she had blocked last year. The same ex she said she wanted no contact with. Chloe shot her a quick look of disbelief. I knew Chloe well enough to recognize that she didn't want to be part of this. Rhea's knee bounced harder. She tried to pretend she'd whispered something stupid and harmless. She shifted her weight on the couch, pretending to adjust her sweater. I leaned forward and reached my hand out. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just enough for her to freeze. "Let me see." The entire room stopped breathing. Even the movie seemed quieter. She blinked like she needed time to think of a strategy, but none appeared. Her fingers tightened around the phone. She tried to smile, the way she always did when she wanted to dodge a conflict. "It's nothing," she muttered. "Just a stupid chat." My hand didn't move. I stayed steady because that steadiness scared her more than any raised voice could. After a few long seconds, she placed the phone in my palm as if she had no choice. The first message that flashed across the screen shattered the last bit of calm I had. Her ex. "So we're still on tonight. Pick you up at 11 behind his building." Another one lower in the thread. "Rhea, he won't know. He never checks anything. He never suspects anything." Then another. "Rhea, I just need him until the exam is over. Once that's done, everything changes." The phone felt heavier than anything I'd carried at work. My mind didn't spin. It sharpened. I scrolled further, not out of morbid curiosity, but because I wanted to understand exactly how long she had been doing this. I saw messages from last week. Last month. Even one from the morning where she sent him a picture of her breakfast with a comment about how I played house like a puppy. Silas shifted in his chair. Rowan muttered something under his breath. No one dared lean closer. I didn't raise my voice or ask for explanations. I stood, walked toward the kitchen counter, and set her phone down. The group watched me as though I was disarming a bomb. Rhea reached out as if she wanted the phone back, but she didn't move from her spot. She knew I wouldn't simply hand it over. I picked up the phone again and tapped her ex's number. I pressed call and set it to speaker so the entire living room could hear. The room went still. He answered with a casual tone, the kind someone uses when they expect a familiar voice. "Ready?" he asked. "I'm parked already." Silas sucked in a sharp breath. Chloe covered her mouth. Rowan swore quietly. The man kept talking because he assumed it was Rhea. I left the gift in the glove compartment. "You can give it to him later so he thinks it's from you. Should soften him up." Rhea's face drained of color. She whispered something, but I didn't care enough to decipher it. I stared at the phone while the ex kept going. "If he asks where you are tonight, use the study excuse again. Works every time. He's too easy." That last line hit me harder than anything else on that screen. Nothing dramatic came out of me. No explosion. No demand. I simply lowered the phone and pressed end. The silence that followed felt like gravity shifting. Rhea jumped up from the couch and pleaded with everyone at once. She claimed it was taken out of context. She claimed it was old. She claimed the ex misunderstood. She tried to switch between panic and charm, but no one responded. Chloe turned away from her and looked at me instead. Silas stared at the carpet like he was trying to disappear into it. Rowan kept whispering that he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. I sat back down, not next to her, but on the opposite end of the couch. I picked up the remote and paused the movie. Tell them, I said. Tell all of us why you said what you said. She opened her mouth, but choked on her own attempt at explanation. She claimed it was harmless. She claimed it was just conversation. She claimed she wasn't going to meet him. Every claim contradicted the next one. I scrolled through more messages. She tried to snatch the phone, but I stepped back. I found older conversations where she had trashed my character. She said I was temporary. She said I made things too easy. She said she didn't respect my job. A particular message last month made my jaw tighten. She told her ex she planned to leave me after the certification exam because I'd served my purpose. Someone behind me muttered that they felt sick. Silas said nothing, but his hands tightened on the armrest. I looked at her one last time. The room waited for my reaction, probably expecting some dramatic meltdown. Instead, I grabbed my jacket from the chair near the door. I didn't storm out. I didn't run. I walked like someone who had just been handed a map to a place he already suspected existed. I told her I'd be back. Not for her. For the truth. And for something she didn't realize I already set in motion earlier that day. Walking out of that living room felt like stepping into cold air after someone locked all the windows. The hallway smelled like old paint and fabric softener from the laundry room downstairs. I needed the quiet. Not to think. Thinking wasn't the problem. I needed distance to confirm something I suspected long before tonight. Rhea always underestimated silence. She feared raised voices, dramatic scenes, public fallout. She never understood that the quiet moments reveal the truth more clearly than any argument. That hallway silence told me more about her than all the messages on her phone. I pulled mine out and scrolled to her sister's contact, Marin. She had warned me months ago that Rhea had a habit of juggling people. I thought she meant in the past. I didn't think she meant now. I didn't want to believe it. I called. She picked up instantly. What happened? I didn't waste time. I told her exactly what I overheard, exactly what I saw on the phone, exactly what her ex said on speaker. She sighed with a kind of exhausted sadness that didn't surprise me anymore. It was the sigh of someone who had braced herself for this day. Gary, she said, she never blocked him. She told me she did, but I knew it was a lie. She met him 3 times last month. She told you she was at the library, right? The hallway tilted for a moment. My grip tightened around my phone. I kept my voice steady. Why didn't you tell me? I tried, she said. She threatened to cut contact with me if I said anything. I'm not proud of staying quiet. It didn't absolve her, but it made sense. Rhea was the type to hold leverage over anyone softer than she was. Marin was gentle, too gentle to withstand her sister's storms. Do you want the screenshots? She asked. My stomach tightened. Send them. She did. Several. A dozen. Straight to my messages. Plans. Lies. Contingency lies. Screenshots of conversations between Rhea and her ex, where she called me a financial cushion and a bridge until something better arrives. Marin apologized again and told me she suspected it would end badly, but she didn't expect it to explode in front of the entire friend group. I thanked her. She said she was around if I needed anything else. I hung up. The hallway lights flickered, only once, but enough to feel like the building itself reacted. I opened the apartment door and walked back inside with the quiet of someone holding a truth no one else was ready for. Everyone was still in the living room. The movie was paused on a random frame. The entire scene looked like a still photograph. Silas hunched forward, Rowan rubbing his temples, Chloe pacing in tiny circles near the window, and Rhea in the middle of it, red-eyed but angrier than sad. The way someone looks when the story they built starts collapsing. The moment I stepped inside, she rushed toward me. Gary, listen to me. You misunderstood everything. He's lying. That wasn't about tonight. We were talking about something else. I didn't answer. I walked past her and sat in the armchair across from the group. She kept talking, piling excuse on top of excuse. She claimed the messages were old, even when the timestamps contradicted her. She claimed the call was staged. She claimed everything except responsibility. Silas looked at me and asked in a low voice, "What did you find?" Instead of speaking, I lifted my phone and held it out. Her sister sent me this. Rhea's voice cracked into a sharp panic. Why would she send you anything? She's always hated me. No, I said. She just stopped covering for you. I passed the phone to Rowan first because he was closest. He scrolled silently. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to something like disgust. He handed it to Silas next. Silas took longer. His breathing grew uneven. When he finally passed it to Chloe, she clutched her stomach like someone hit her. Rhea tried to grab the phone, but Chloe stepped away from her. This is too much, she muttered. This is who you've been this whole time. Rhea spun around as though searching for anyone still on her side. She looked at Silas, but he didn't meet her eyes. Instead, he did something that changed the entire dynamic of the room. He ran his hand over his face and said, Gary, I should have told you something earlier. The atmosphere shifted so violently that even Rhea stopped talking. Silas stood up and walked toward the kitchen doorway like he needed a physical barrier between himself and the tension. When she said on the phone that you'd never notice anything, he said quietly. That wasn't the first time she crossed the line. He hesitated, then continued. 3 weeks ago, she flirted with me. Hard. I shut it down. I didn't say anything because I hoped it was just a moment of stupidity. The room vibrated. No sound, but heavy breaths. Rhea snapped toward him. That never happened. Silas didn't raise his voice. It did. She spun toward Rowan. You know he's lying. Rowan shook his head. He's never lied about anything like this. The silence turned into something thick enough to feel. I asked Silas, why didn't you say anything before? He shrugged with an expression full of guilt. Because you were planning the engagement party. I didn't want to blow everything up unless I was sure. I didn't expect tonight. Rhea started pacing fast, muttering angry half-explanations to herself. She accused her sister of sabotaging her. She accused Silas of making things up. She accused everyone except the person who caused all of it. Her voice grew louder as she spiraled, but everyone's sympathy drained out of the room. Rhea didn't win people with her vulnerability. She won them with performance. That performance wasn't working now. I stood up slowly. I'm picking up my things. She rushed in front of me like she could block the door. Where are you going? I didn't raise my tone. Out. You can't walk out like this, she stammered. We're supposed to talk things through. We will, I said. But not right now. She tried to corner me, but Silas stepped between us. Not aggressively, just firmly enough that she couldn't follow. She glared at him like he'd betrayed her personally. The moment she realized she wouldn't get to trap me into a conversation, her face changed. Gone was the panic. Gone was the charm. What replaced them was a cold calculation I recognized too well. She started reorganizing her lies, reshuffling them, preparing new ones before I even reached the hallway. I opened the door. Behind me, the room stayed eerily still. Just before I stepped out, Rowan said, Gary, do you need any help? I shook my head. Not yet. I walked down the stairs, but instead of leaving the building, I stopped at the second-floor landing. I needed a moment to let the next wave of realization settle. Tonight would not be a single confrontation. It was the beginning of a chain reaction. I knew Rhea. She wasn't the type to retreat quietly. She would fight, manipulate, twist, rewrite history, pull every emotional lever she could reach. I needed to stay ahead of her if I wanted the truth, not the scripted apology she was already planning. As I stood there, my phone vibrated again. A message from Marin. Be careful. If she thinks she's losing control, she gets unpredictable. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She was right. Upstairs, the muffled sound of voices rose, the group arguing with Rhea. The tone wasn't sympathetic. It was sharp. People who finally realized they'd been played. I walked back up the stairs. Not to return to her. To finish something she had no idea I was capable of finishing. And that was only the beginning. The door clicked behind me when I returned to the apartment, but no one turned toward the sound. Every person in that room was locked into their own version of shock, except Rhea, who paced like an animal searching for an escape route that didn't exist anymore. Her breathing came in sharp bursts. She kept tugging her sleeves, running her hands through her hair, and throwing desperate glances at each of the others, as though someone might suddenly decide to rescue her from the truth. They didn't. Silas stood with his arms crossed, staring at the bookshelf as if the titles might change on their own. Rowan leaned against the wall with his hands in his pockets, trying to look calm and failing. Chloe sat on the arm of the couch, elbows on her knees, eyes locked onto Rhea with a look that was far too steady to be sympathetic. When I stepped back into the living room, the energy shifted. Everyone looked at me except her. Rhea finally noticed the silence and spun around. You came back, she said, as if that somehow meant she still had control. She moved toward me fast, like she wanted to close the distance before anyone else could intervene. I stepped aside. She stopped short. We need to talk alone, Gary. Everyone else is twisting what happened. You know this is between us. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, because she didn't deserve to direct the moment. Rowan spoke first. His voice was steady, low, and unexpectedly sharp. He's not talking to you alone tonight. You already manipulated half the room for months. You're not doing it again. Rhea's head snapped toward him. Manipulated? I didn't manipulate anyone. You're letting him spin the story. I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it loosely in my hand. There's nothing to spin. Her gaze landed on my phone like she recognized the threat it represented. She reached out a hand. Gary, let me explain myself before you show anything else. Please. Chloe stood up. There is no explanation good enough for what we read. Stop pretending there is. Rhea snapped. Stay out of this, Chloe. Chloe didn't flinch. I'll stay out of your business when you stop dragging us into your mess every time you need attention. Those words hit harder than anything I could have said. Rhea reeled back. She stared at Chloe like she didn't recognize her. Something inside her broke then. The anger didn't disappear, it morphed. She switched tactics. Her voice softened into something almost pitiful, the tone she used whenever she wanted to play the victim. Gary, don't let them turn you against me. You know me better than this. You know how stressed I've been. You know how much pressure I'm under. I didn't know her. That was the problem. I turned toward her. Show them the deleted messages. Her entire body stiffened. What deleted messages? You deleted several threads right before I asked to see your phone. Restore them. She shook her head quickly, too quickly. I don't know what you're talking about. Silas muttered. This is exhausting. I tapped the screen and opened one of the recovery options. She lunged forward to grab it. Rowan stepped in front of her and blocked her. You have no right to go through my private. I cut her off. You used that privacy to lie to every person in this room. No shouting. No rage. Just truth. She froze, but her chest rose and fell fast. I restored the deleted messages. The threads filled the screen in seconds. The older ones, the ones she thought she had hidden permanently. Plans. Complaints. Ridiculing me. Ridiculing my job. Telling her ex she deserved someone more ambitious. Suggesting she could string me along until she found something better. A notification chimed, and another message from her ex appeared. Let me know when you slip out. I'll circle the block. Chloe whispered something under her breath, but I didn't catch it. Rowan swore. Silas closed his eyes. Rhea reached for the phone again. Stop showing them everything. This is between us. No, I said. You made it bigger than us. She swallowed hard, realizing the room had already turned. But the real twist hadn't landed yet. I placed the phone on the table. There's something you don't know. Her eyes narrowed. What now? You don't live with me anymore. The room fell into an immediate silence, heavy and absolute. She laughed once, a short, confused sound. What does that even mean? I took you off the lease this morning. That sentence cracked the air open. Even the refrigerator in the kitchen hummed louder. Rhea blinked slow, then fast, then slow again. You're lying. I'm not. You can't do that without my signature. I can if the landlord approves it, and he did. You're not listed as a tenant anymore. She shook her head violently. Why would you even do that? You didn't know anything this morning. I didn't know the details, I said. But I knew enough about your behavior these last months to protect myself before anything blew up. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Words refused to form. Her entire sense of safety, her future strategy, her backup plan, her comfortable arrangement, crumbled faster than she could rebuild it. You're throwing away our home over a misunderstanding? She demanded. That wasn't our home anymore. It became a storage unit for your lies. She backed away from me like she'd been shoved. Her face folded into panic wrapped in anger, an expression I'd seen only once before, when she realized she couldn't win an argument with evidence alone. You set me up, she snapped. No, I said. You set yourself up. I just stopped standing in the way of the consequences. She rushed toward the door like she planned to flee the confrontation, but Rowan stepped in her path again. She pointed at him. Move. No. Silas spoke up. We're not locking you in here. We just won't let you chase him into the hallway to corner him. She glared at all of them. You're all turning on me because of one stupid night. Chloe laughed once, dry and humorless. This wasn't one night. This was months. Maybe a year. Rhea spun toward me again. We're engaged. That ended when you agreed to meet him at 11. Her mouth trembled. You think you can just erase me? No, I said. You erased us. The room went completely quiet again. The kind of silence that comes after a verdict. Everyone breathed, but no one moved. Then Rowan broke it. Gary, do you need help packing your things? That shook her. She stepped closer to me with a kind of desperate boldness. You're not doing this. You can't be serious. You can't leave me with nowhere to go. You had somewhere to go, I said. You planned to meet him tonight. Her expression shifted. The anger evaporated. The panic sharpened. Her mind finally accepted something she had never considered. She wasn't in control anymore. I walked toward the door. I'm leaving now. I'll come back tomorrow for the rest. She followed behind me until Silas put a hand on her shoulder. She jerked away, but she didn't chase me. I stepped into the hallway, and the door closed behind me. I expected relief. I didn't get it. What I got was clarity. Because the consequences weren't over. Not for her. And definitely not for me. There was one more thing she didn't know. One thing that would change everything when she realized what she'd lost. The hallway outside Rowan's apartment felt quieter than the rest of the building, as if it understood that something irreversible had happened inside the room I'd just walked out of. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, needing the rhythm of descending each step to cool the heat in my chest. The winter air outside slapped me awake the moment I reached the parking lot. I stood still, hands in my pockets, breathing in slow, steady waves until the world stopped spinning. I didn't go home right away. I walked to the bench near the mailbox row and sat there until the cold soaked into my sleeves. My mind ran through the past months, every strange reaction, every unexplained absence, every apology that felt rehearsed. All the things I brushed aside because I believed in her more than I should have. Every sign I excused replayed itself with painful clarity. I didn't hate her. That was the strange part. Hate takes energy, and she didn't deserve any more of mine. What I felt instead was something harsher but cleaner, a firm, grounded certainty that I couldn't allow her anywhere near my life again. My phone buzzed. A message from Rowan. She's trying to leave with Silas following her, so she doesn't come after you. Then another from Chloe. She's screaming that she wants to talk. We're not letting her leave the hallway alone. I replied to none of them. I appreciated it, but I needed distance before I could deal with the next wave of whatever she was planning. Eventually I stood, walked to my car, and drove home. Home, a word that already felt different now that her name wasn't tied to it. The apartment was silent. I locked the door behind me, turned on the kitchen light, and leaned against the counter until the tension in my shoulders loosened. I didn't know how long I stayed there, staring at the floor tiles, grounding myself in the simple fact that I was alone and safe in a place she no longer had the ability to weaponize. I slept lightly that night, waking to every vibration of my phone. Dozens of missed calls from Rhea. Long strings of messages ranging from denial to begging to sudden anger to more begging. They stacked like a spiraling timeline of desperation. I read none of them fully. I scrolled past them like junk mail I'd already decided to throw away. By morning, the storm had calmed outside. I packed a small duffel bag and drove back to Rowan's building to retrieve the few things I had brought with me the previous night. The air smelled of snow and exhaust. The sidewalk was empty. When I reached the building, I spotted her immediately. Rhea sat on the front steps with her arms wrapped around herself, her phone in her lap. Her hair was messy, her eyes red, and her breathing uneven. She looked like someone who had run out of strategies and was now relying on raw panic. She stood as soon as she saw me. "Gary, please. Don't walk past me. We need to talk." I kept my pace steady. I didn't change direction, but I didn't stop. She grabbed my arm. Not violently, just enough to force a pause. "You can't end everything over one night. I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. You don't have to destroy our entire life because of it." I shook her hand off. "You destroyed it. Then let me fix it." "You can't." Her breath hitched. "You're the only person who ever made me feel stable. You can't walk away after everything we built." "We didn't build anything," I said. "I built it. You occupied it." I didn't raise my voice. The calmness itself made her stumble a step back. She pressed her palms together like she needed to hold herself upright. "If you walk away, I have nowhere to go. You had somewhere to go last night at 11. The comment pierced her last layer of denial. She flinched like the truth physically hurt her. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. You created this. You created every lie, every plan, every risk, every hurt." Her lips trembled. She looked down at the snow-covered step, then back at me. "I'll change. I'll cut him off forever. I'll delete everything. I'll start over." "You've said that to him too," I said, "in those messages." Her eyes widened. "You don't understand. He doesn't mean anything to me." And I did. I asked. She had no answer. I walked past her and headed inside. She didn't follow. She sat back down on the steps like her body couldn't hold her weight anymore. Inside the apartment, the atmosphere felt completely different. The movie night mess was gone. The lights were brighter. Everyone stood around the living room like they were waiting for me. Rowan handed me the backpack I'd left the night before. Silas gave me a small nod, the kind men give each other when words would only cheapen the moment. Chloe didn't say anything, but she smiled at me, the kind of smile that carried support without explanations. I thanked them. As I turned to leave, Rowan said, "We're here if you need anything." I nodded. "I know." When I stepped outside, Rhea was still there. She didn't look at me. Her phone buzzed in her lap. She stared at the screen and suddenly let out a dry, broken noise. Her ex had blocked her. The final safety net she assumed would catch her had vanished the moment she became inconvenient. She whispered something to herself and then looked at me like I was somehow responsible for that too. I didn't offer pity. I didn't offer anger. I offered nothing. I unlocked my car and left. The next few days unfolded with a clarity I didn't expect. Her sister, Marin, kept me updated. Rhea tried staying with several friends, but no one wanted the chaos. She argued with her cousin across town and stayed there for a while. Eventually, she left the city to stay with an aunt who barely tolerated her. Not my problem anymore. People in our friend group chose distance. They didn't want to risk being dragged into her drama. The social circle that once supported her now treated her like the person she always was behind the charm. As for me, the life I returned to felt cleaner. My evenings weren't spent untangling excuses. My mornings weren't spent guessing which version of her would wake up. I found myself making new routines, healthier ones. I didn't rush into anything. I didn't chase validation or revenge. I focused on work, on rebuilding the parts of my life I neglected while trying to hold together something already broken. 2 weeks later, I received a long email from her. Not angry, not manipulative, just empty. She apologized. She blamed stress. She blamed insecurity. She blamed childhood issues. She blamed everything except her choices. I didn't respond. A month later, our friend group hosted another movie night. Ria's old spot on the couch stayed empty. No one acknowledged it. No one missed her. The quiet that replaced her presence felt like fresh air. Halfway through the movie, I checked my phone. Another message from her. A final one. A last attempt. I blocked her. The room stayed warm. The movie kept playing. My friends laughed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. The consequences landed exactly where they belonged, with the person who created them.